us things that she's doing, right? So, hey, again, welcome, everybody. I'm so glad that you're here. This is going to be awesome. My name is Keith Jones, and here you're going to see what we're talking about our property. So, what this today is all about a person who's in action, a person who's a real estate investor. Because there's a lot of people that says, you know what, I'm thinking about doing it. Should I do it? Could I do it? And we watch like stuff on TV and it's over in 30 minutes and we still have all these questions. Well, today is live where you get to ask the investor that we're showcasing today, Tamara, and she's going to just showcase and talk and just explain her process and everything has going. So again, thank you for everybody who's coming from all over the United States. We do this every Saturday. Now, last Saturday we didn't because we had a special event, but we'll talk about that later. But again, I am so glad that you're all here. We have some more folks coming in. We're going to get straight to it. So make sure you have your pen and paper. Get ready for your questions. Go ahead and put that in the chat. That's the best way to get your questions in. So I'm going to look at the chat. I see a lot of people saying yes, that they can see my screen. So thank you. So you're all in the right spot. Now, just out of curiosity, are you ready? Say yes. Say yes. I'm just wondering. I'm making sure everybody got the volume going. They got the. I see some yes coming in. I got some yes coming in. Yep. Got some yeps coming in. That's what I'm talking about. All right. Here we go. Hey, Tamara, I'm going to go ahead and stop sharing my screen. If you don't mind, come on out. You muted there. You muted just a little bit.
All right.
Oh, there you go. We can see it. Hey, thank you for coming on today. First we want to say thank you to Scott Boko and Yas who are just allowing us to host this meeting, and you actually get to share with us what you're doing in this thing called real estate investing. But before we really get started, if you don't mind just taking a couple of minutes, just tell us who you are, because some people may not know you, right? We saw each other at Nationals last week, but some people are really trying to figure out, should I do this thing called real estate investing? But can you just tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, my pleasure. And it was great briefly seeing you last week, Keith. There was so many of our awesome community members at our national conference. But yeah, so just to give you a little bit of background about myself, I come from the fashion entertainment industry. So before I got into real estate, I was working with the Yankees, Stella McCartney, Gap, just to name a few. And I love what I was doing. I had some amazing opportunities. And however, I found myself working really long hours, achieving someone else's goals and not having time to achieve my own. So as you guys can probably imagine, and I don't know if anyone's feeling like that. If you are, type a one in the chat. I was looking for something else and I knew there had to have been a better way, and I was determined to find it. So long story short, I started working with a friend of mine who, who was a big real estate investor in the Philadelphia. Oh no, sorry, let me back up for a second. So I ended up going back to school. I did what they told us to do. I went to school, I got another degree, and I figured when I come out of school, I'd be making a lot more money and having a lot more time. So part of that was true. I did come out making a lot more money, but I also required more of my time. So it kind of canceled out any money I was making. And I made the last company I worked for, well over $1 million, and I restructured the position only for them to tell me that they don't give raises. That was how I translated it anyway. So it was it was at that point I knew there was a better way, and I had to find it. So I stumbled into real estate completely by accident. I had a friend and he was like, hey, I was thinking interior design because that was more my world, and he said, no, why don't you get into real estate investing, secure your financial future, and then go and do whatever whatever you want, because you'll be financially independent. And no one had ever said anything like that to me, so I was super opposed to it at first, because I said, I don't know anything about real estate investing. And long story short, I stumbled into our community of real estate investors in New York, and I had thought I had a deal. And the whole goal of me going was to get investors to invest into this deal. And very quickly, I found out it wasn't exactly a deal. And it turned out I met this amazing community of real estate investors. And, really what just wasn't working. I was trying to work with one person and learn everything about real estate investing, but it was challenging because if he couldn't work one day, guess what? I didn't really know what I was doing. So, and it was just, it only took me so far. I'm very grateful because that brought me to where I am today. If I hadn't started working with him, I probably would have never, who knows if I would have ever found the community, but that's how I found the community. And fast forward, I think I've done about 17 or 18 deals. I've raised millions of dollars in private capital, and still going. I feel like I'm still just getting started. So it's a little bit of
Wow.
a transition for me coming from that no experience, but here we are.
Well, you know, hey, I appreciate you sharing that because a lot of people don't want to admit, like, you know, they want to do it on your own. Because I, like myself, wanted to do it on my own because for some reason we had that mindset, you got to do it by yourself. And when we realize that there's questions that we have and we're like, who can I go to and talk to? And then, like you say, you stumble into it as like, okay, this is, I really think I want to do this. And you started moving in that direction. You realize that, ooh, I need a little bit more information. I need, I need a foundation to work off of because we don't like ceilings, right? We like floors, but we don't like ceilings when we come to like working and money and stuff like that. But you needed that stabilization. So when you talk to your friend, what was it like when they say, "Hey, come check out this community"? I mean, what was your feelings at that time?
Well, this was a completely new world to me. So I'm a big networker. I like meeting people. So I just said, sure, whatever, I'll come. You know what I mean? You're talking about the meeting for the community?
Yeah, getting started.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I stumbled into that meeting. I literally had no idea what I was getting into. I was just looking for capital. So that was really the only reason I went.
That's funny because we have a lot of people who do that. Like they coming in, like they got one thing on their mind. Like I'm going and I'm so focused. This is the only thing I want to focus on. But then when they see all the different aspects of when it comes to real estate investing, you know, you don't have to be by yourself. If you only work with one person, if your schedule busy and their schedule busy, then you never meet. Or we only meet like once a month. Well, that's like brushing your teeth once a month. That doesn't work out very well, right? So you have to always be plugged in. So that's really awesome. So I thank you for sharing that. So where are you right now? Like where's this property? Because we got people from like from New York, New Jersey, Phillies. See, like where's this property that you're going to share with us today?
Yeah, sure. So this property, I'm based out of Manhattan. This property is in Lake Hopatcong, New Jersey, which is about an hour north from New York. Um, I'm in Philly today with my family, but yeah, so this property is a little bit about an hour from Manhattan.
How did you find this property?
Yeah, so through my network, you know, let people know what markets that I'm um interested in, and I network with like different wholesalers and just people in general, and someone actually I think a wholesaler brought this to me, and yeah, a wholesaler.
Okay, so you started to like really learn how to become a real estate investor? Or were you already pulling from your past experience?
When I found this property,
Yeah.
I've built up a network, and like kind of like in the Bill Ome's class, I've just built a reputation for what I'm looking for. I let people know I'm always talking about um what I'm looking for. And actually, when I found this property, I was actually going through one of our courses, again, essentials courses in finding deals. So they teach us a bunch of strategies on how to find deals, and I was doing one of those strategies, and that's kind of how I connected with the wholesaler, essentially.
Okay. So as you was kind of looking at this deal, what was your first strategy as you started to analyze the deal? Because I know like when people always say, well, here's a deal. Did you analyze the deal or you just take their word for it?
No, always analyze, trust but verify, right? So I definitely, the numbers were very appealing, but honestly, there's everyone and their mother says they're a wholesaler has deals. So And I find that, you know, once in a while you come across someone who actually does have a deal. Unfortunately, this was, but no, I ran these numbers quite a few times and made you know, once the numbers made sense, I went up there and had a contractor come up with me. I got it inspected and all the fun things to make sure I was analyzing the property accurately.
Okay. And so like somebody was asking like how long you been doing real estate investing? How long have you been participating?
Um, Now it's been about 9 years, 10 years.
Oh, congratulations. So you've been through the different markets as it goes ups and downs. So have you found it's been hard, or do you just know that as a real estate investor, you know how to pivot?
So I learned how to, I now I know how to pivot. I mean, this was the first, so I've been part of the community for 10 years. I've really only been doing real estate for 4 or 5 years, to be very clear. And this, with COVID, I changed all of my strategies. Ironically, I went from I had to slash I wanted to. I went from doing traditional buy and holds to lease options and seller finance, and I love the changes that I did. And I don't typically do fix and flip. So this, you'll hear about this shortly. This property was initially a buy and hold. I'm more of a buy and hold um person, but I ended up I end up flipping it. It's under contract now. You'll hear about that a little bit later. So I learned how to flip because I wanted to know how to, when if I ever needed to make, you know, a big chunk of money, you know, at some times, or wanted to build up my capital, I have the ability to do so. And I'm in one of those phases where this is actually I have two other properties under contract right now that I'm going to flip. So I'm in a flip phase, but it's not so much my thing. It's fine. I enjoy it. I learn from it, but I'm much more of a buy and hold kind of girl.
No, I agree with you. I like buying holes because you know like this weekend Monday is like the first, right? So you have that you have your rent checks coming in. So um I like that. I do like fix and flips because you know you get like that wow factor, you know, type of a deal. So it's really cool to how you have different strategies. So I'm looking at, you know, some of the chat. So we're gonna just pause for a second and just ask the folks who are online, what's one of the strategies that you like, right? Because so far we heard multiple strategies just in this short period of time that we was just talking about, and I think some people are actually looking at see. So we got some folks talking about buying holes. So you know you're not alone, right? We got some more buying holes. So why do you like buying holes?
um 100% because of the cash flow and the appreciation. Yeah, cash flow and appreciation all day.
And over time, as you kind of build that portfolio, because everybody's different, so results are are not typical. But when you start to build that portfolio, does it give you that sense of freedom that a lot of people actually talk about?
Yes, all day. When you like, so when I pivoted, so I had a partnership, I liquidated the partnership and that portfolio, and then I started building my own portfolio in the past 2 years. It's the best feeling in the world. When I had that first check that was cash flow hit my account, it was like, wow, it's like addicting. It's a little bit addicting. It's like, I only have one of these. I want like 50 of these coming, right? Because here's the thing, that check hits my account, whether I'm in Philadelphia, whether I'm in, you know, Barbados. I was just in Barbados, in Utah, like it doesn't matter where I am, that check comes in. And you know, you've got people going to work for you 27 days out of the month to pay your bills, right? So it's mailbox money, we call it. It's very fun.
Yeah. So it sounds like, you have that, you like that freedom, right? So you can travel the world, which is awesome. And then you also like the community, so that way you are collaborating with others. And then it sounds like you may have some systems in place. Do you have systems when it comes to how do you put all this together? How you travel and still do real estate investing?
Yeah, that's a great question. So I do love freedom and I do love to travel. So for me, that was a big thing. And I love to spend time with like my family and the people that I care about. So my whole goal was to put systems in place so I didn't have to be there myself. So I have vetted out contractors. I have amazing contractors that, you know, I had to go through quite a few to get to the right ones, but they really just have my back. Like I had one of my contractors, I couldn't get to this property yesterday, but I'm probably possibly going under contract for another property. Um, you know, and it's I'm buying it from someone I know, and he goes, "Your contractor vetted he drilled me on the end to find out what's going on with this property," and I was like, "That's what I want to hear." So I have contractors. I don't have any property managers right now for my portfolios because that's a whole nother story, but it was just easier for me to find someone that I trusted to pay to go and check out properties when I need them too. So I've got systems in place. I've got people that help me go check on my properties that also have my back, right? I got one lady who, where my rentals are, and this is a little bit different than this property, but she'll call me and say, "Hey, there's people going in and out of this property. I don't know what's going on." Like I'll get calls from her. She's one of these people that knows everything that's going on in the neighborhood, and she's always keeping me in the loop. And I love it because this portfolio is not near me. It's in the south, so it's just great to have people that, you know. And so again, I don't need to be there. I do go there typically once a quarter, but I don't need to be there because I have the right systems and people in place to look out for my properties and let me know what's going on.
Yeah, and I love that because they're like the number one on my list for like Christmas gifts, right? It's like, other than my family, like they're like, hey, thank you, kind of like you build that trust and you have people who are looking out for you, and that's really, really awesome. And they didn't have to, but you took care of. That's one thing about real estate investing. Maybe you had noticed when you take care of a property, a person who lives in the area likes to live in nice areas, right? And so when you bring the value as you make it nice, then they feel comfortable that it's not a house that's just being abandoned there. And then at the same time, they kind of give you that feedback. So you feel validated, like, you're doing the right thing when people are actually watching out for you and helping you. And as a person who's like really focused on your goals, like you in charge and you're solving problems, the folks that support you, your general contractors and all that, actually kind of mirror what you would do. And that's how they go and invest. So that's really awesome that you have those systems and those people in place to work with that. And then there's some folks today are really trying to understand, like, well, how did you learn all this? So just to let everybody know, right after this, or ask the person who invited you to this meeting to get you connected to a meeting that really explains all the details of how we learn how to become real estate investors and all the systems and everything you just heard up to now. How do you kind of put that together? And it starts with learning and being open to learn, to be able to say, you know what, I don't know everything, and maybe I can take some time out to really plug in, to really take this on up. So, we talked a lot. I know people are really like, say, show me the property, show me the property. So can you go ahead and start talking about your property?
Yeah, sure. And just to kind of piggyback off what you said for a second, I couldn't even explain to you what a mortgage was when I came into this community. So I really plugged into our classes, which I'll get into in a second, and our community big time. And that's the only way. I would not be in real estate if it wasn't for, I kind of wish Scott was on here because I wouldn't be in real estate if it wasn't for our community. Because when I was going through this property initially, I found some interesting challenges that were some of the biggest challenges I've taken on. Like this is the biggest rehab I've done myself. I've done other rehabs when I had a partner but he had more experience than I did. So when I came across some of the joist issues in this one, I was like, I reached out to a few people and I was doing another property tour for Scott. So it was like, hey, Scott, have you, and I know Scott's done a lot of real estate. So I was like, hey, have you ever come into this? So the community and the education has been second to none for me. I wouldn't be here without it. So anyway, here's the property. So what's fun about this property, what I really like about it, first of all, I love this property. I was initially keeping it, and through a variety of different reasons, I decided to sell it, and that makes this property tour even cooler because of my exit. I set up with 3 different exit strategies, and that's one thing they teach us, to always have 3 exit strategies. And you hear it all the time, but now that I experience it, I'm like, wow, it's important to have 3 exit strategies. So this was the property when I came across it. So there was a gentleman and his son living in this property, and to say they did not take care of it would be an understatement. I walked in and you couldn't, the smell was horrendous. They complained about a smell. It's because there was mold because they didn't take care of anything. There was rats in the kitchen, there was holes behind the walls. We pulled these walls down, which you're going to see in a second. I'll fast forward to these. Oh no, that's not it. So this was a mess. I'll just leave it at that. It was disgusting. My aunt came with me one day and she didn't even want to walk inside because he had a dog. There was like fleas. I don't know how these people were living here. It's a beautiful house otherwise. If you take care of it, it's a phenomenal house. So anyway, when I came across it, this was the condition. I have a quick video. Can you guys see can you see my screen still?
Yes.
Okay, so we took it down to the studs, and I'll just kind of give you a walkthrough of it. This little room, quite the room. It was a do-it-yourself room, which I'll get into, but oh my goodness, they're lucky no one fell through. They had the sunlights covered, which are gorgeous. I don't know why. It really makes the room. We had to put a supporting, I think it's a supporting beam on this because it was starting to sag. There was no insulation, so he wasn't getting heat inside the house. He had these little space heaters, which again, I don't understand, but I'm not going to try. So we had to re-insulate the walls almost all over the house. So that was the beginning of the rehab. Now, this was interesting because again, this was one of the first times I picked my own contractors. Well, the second, well, yeah, it was the second, but to do such a big rehab, and the first ones I picked were terrible. They didn't know what they're doing, and it was kind of like the blind leading the blind because construction was not really my forte. I've learned a lot through this, but so I had to get rid of the first ones. I lost a little bit of money and time on that. Not terrible, maybe like $6,000 or $7,000, just because they didn't know what they're doing. And if I had the right contractor in from the beginning, I would have done this a little bit differently, but it turned out great. So this is a lake house property. There's a lake right across the street, which you saw in the first picture. There was water coming into the crawl space and we couldn't figure out why. Now, again, it was like the simplest fix, but the contractor that I initially had like just didn't really know what he was doing. So he pulled up the floors and I was going nuts because it was really bothering me that there was water. That's when I reached out to the community. I was like, hey, does anyone da da da? Long story short, I figured out it was a very simple fix. They just needed their sump pump was rotted out. So all I had to do was replace the sump pump and it was done. It was fixed, right? Now there is high water levels in this area. I learned a lot about a lake community, which you have no control. Like there's just going to be high water levels, so you just have to deal with it basically. So we ripped up the floors. It wasn't really necessary. But when I got the right contractor in there, it was a game changer. And now he's with me through the next 3 properties that I have on that I'm working on. So he really made a huge difference. It was like night and day because he was telling me what was wrong so I could make better decisions about things, which was great. So as you can see, we started progressing through. We put the insulation up. I moved around the one thing about this property, the space was just not well used. Like this, if you can see this thing right here, like this is not like, you don't need this space. There's nothing to do with it. So, and there's not a lot of storage room. So I knew like coming in my perspective, if a family were to live here, I'm thinking like I would want more space here. Especially if they have kids. So we put storage space here. I don't have an updated picture, but this little room, this do-it-yourself room, another interesting experience. I knew when I walked in here, we did actually have to pull the floors up. There was a like a little sink, whatever, it's sunk. You never want that in a house. That's never a good indication that there's that when you walk in and find that. we couldn't figure out what the issue is, but I knew something was not right because it shouldn't have sunk like that. So what we ended up finding when we were tearing out the deck in the backyard is they didn't put the right foundation under this house, under that part of the room. It's a really cool room, but it wasn't done. It was like a do-it-yourself room. They didn't have it insulated. They didn't have the proper foundation. So again, this comes down to having the right contractors, because the first contractor would have not known how to handle this. The second one was phenomenal. He was so knowledgeable. We initially thought I was going to have to spend $30,000 to basically tear it down and rebuild it and do it the right way. And that was not what you want to hear, because that was going to take out of the profit big time. But thankfully he's very experienced and had the right knowledge. And he was like, listen, you don't need to do that. They had some foundation. They had like 2 foundation walls up, but they didn't have all of it. So he just finished the foundation that they started. So now the dip was gone, and it's turned out to be a lovely little room. When I was keeping it, so my initial plan was to keep it as an Airbnb. So I put a ping pong table up there, and it looks really cool. And there's also, I put a laundry room and I put storage in that corner there. I moved the washer and dryer around the corner so it's not like in your face when you walk into the house. So here is the final product. And I'm very happy with it. It's a beautiful house. The lighting's amazing. The kitchen's one of my favorites because you see the exposed wood. The kitchen was pretty easy. There wasn't a lot going on there, thankfully, except for the mold. We had to pull down and get rid of the mold behind the walls. Everything else is brand new. And, we just utilized the space better. In the initial kitchen, there was all these cabinets. Now we went with the open concept. And I love it. Initially, it was like, no, I don't want to do that. My contractor suggested it, and I was like, no. But then when I actually did it, I loved it. It looks beautiful.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it does. It does. And you said there was a couple of things that you said that some people may not have caught, right? So even though you're learning, you're moving forward. That's one thing I like about real estate investing. When you buy it right, you have that flexibility that you built in for maybe some oops factors, right? And then even though you had a general contractor, because I had to do that once before too. We had a contractor and then we had to switch and get a different contractor. And as you kind of build that relationship with, it sounds like what I thought I heard you say was that contractor to help you with this one is doing some other ones for you. Is that what I heard correctly?
Yeah, and he's the one that drilled the guy that I might be buying the house from. So yeah, he's phenomenal. I mean, listen, yeah, he's phenomenal. He's really good. I'm very happy with him. So it was kind of a blessing in disguise that I had the bad contractor because I got to the good contractor.
Yeah, that's what some people call, you kind of fell forward, right? And so sometimes, as we kind of look at real estate investing and we think we capture everything, but we got to give ourselves a little grace period, right? Some wiggle room to be able to handle some things that may come up. But I also like how you said you reached out to the community when you had an issue about that water, and you was able to get that solved. So what was the feeling like when you was able to reach out to somebody and they provided that solution or those ideas?
Yeah, so thankfully I'm not as green as I used to be because there was definitely a lot of surprises, endless surprises with this property. And so that dip in the floor with it needed a sister joist. So it just means it needed a little bit more support with the beams below in the crawl space. And I'm so grateful because I reached out to about 3 or 4 people, and I think if this was a couple years ago, I probably would have freaked out, but because I have a little bit more experience and I know the community has my back, I wasn't so worried. So Scott was one of the people I reached out to, who's also a host on this, and he was like, oh, you might just need to put a sister joist up. It's not, it shouldn't be that big of a deal. And I was like, oh, okay, cool. So between bouncing it off people in the community, and there's a couple people that I like, Bill Predabon, also, I got to give him a shout out because he always has my back on this stuff. And like, there's a couple people in the community and like Dane Clark that I'll reach out to regularly just to bounce questions off of because they have a lot more experience than me, right? And yeah, so there were like probably 3 times during this whole rehab that I reached out to some of the more experienced investors and were like, hey, what would you do in this scenario? Like, you know what I mean? Like, hey, like
Yeah.
I've never heard of this.
No, that's awesome. That's one of the things that also drew me to was the community because, like you said earlier, was like, hey, instead of having like one mentor or one person to talk to, you have multiple people to talk to who has your best interest. They don't get anything from it. It's just to help you, and that's really awesome. And then when you work with your general contractor, because somebody asked, like, does that happen frequently? Sometimes it all depends on where it is. You may have a contractor that you're vetting, and sometimes they may not meet your expectations, but because you know and you learn how to pivot, then you find another. And once you find that good relationship, you generally that contractor really wants to stay with you because as an investor, you're not just buying one house or working with one property. You have multiple properties, which that's what you're hearing today. So that's a really good question. Now, some people ask like, how many bedrooms, how many baths on this one?
Yeah, so there's another cool story about this. So this was initially a 2 bedroom, 1 bath. But you keep hearing me say like they just did not use the space well in this house. So I turned it into a 3-2. Um, and so there's a room over here on the left. I wish I had a better picture of it. It's a beautiful little room. It's all covered in wood. It's such a little like lake house room. So all I did, it didn't have a closet. So all I did was I added a closet. So I made it a legal 3 bedroom down here. And then if you saw this bathroom up here, so I redid a bunch of I redid all the flooring and the walls in this bathroom, and I also added a shower, right? Because some of this, I forget the name that they officially call this house. It'll come to me in a second, but I added a shower. The weird thing about this house is the larger bathroom is downstairs. So the master bedroom I think is upstairs. And it's a beautiful bathroom, but the master one is downstairs, and this one is significantly smaller. So I can't really make the bathroom much bigger because it'll cut into the size of the bedrooms. But I did add a shower here, so I made it officially a 2 bedroom bathroom versus a 1.5. So what happens is when you walk up these stairs and you go through this um there's a bedroom to the right and there's a bedroom to the left, and the bathroom is right in the center.
Oh, so you definitely utilize the space. That's really awesome. And that
Yeah,
kitchen is, oh, wow, that's so I'm going to assume all new appliances. I see that the different floors. So how long did it take you to kind of do all of this with this project? What was the time frame?
sure. So it was probably about 5 months, and then 6 because I had to change contractors and find the new one. The first one was just who knows what he was doing. Yeah, 6. It probably would have taken 4.5 if I had the right contractor in from the beginning. But it is what it is.
Okay, so remind us what was your first strategy, and then what did you pivot? Because you say you had three different strategies. Because some folks just came on, and so what was your initial strategy, and then what did you end up doing as you about to
Yeah,
show us?
yeah. So I initially had this whole thing set up for an Airbnb. It's in a beautiful lake house community, and just it's a great, like, a lot of New Yorkers are going out here to get away from the city. It's phenomenal. It's beautiful for that. And then I actually literally like changed strategies maybe a month and a half ago, and I had already spent a week and a half there designing it as an Airbnb, and then I just had a little bit of an epiphany and decided to sell it, and it actually just went under contract um last week for full ask. So which I'm a little bit sad about, but I know is the right decision for me for right now. So yeah, so and that's the great thing, right? And should I show the numbers, Keith, or should I wait?
No, you go ahead.
Okay. So initially here were the two extra strategies, or typically here's the three. It got appraised at 405. I purchased it for 219. I could have gotten this lower, but I wanted it, so I was like, I'm just getting this property at 219. I could have and I should have negotiated it but a little bit more, but I was so determined in getting it at that time. I was like, I don't care, I'm just getting it, right? Um but I could have gotten it for less. So anyway, the rehab was about 68,000. The ARV, it got appraised for 405. So you can see there's a lot of wiggle room there. There's a wide spread. Now, if I would have kept it for an Airbnb, it would have probably cash flowed, I think, on higher on the busy season around somewhere between, I think the numbers were around $5,000 a month. And my expenses would have been around 2,700, if I remember correctly. 5 to 6, I think, and probably higher in the summers. That's just an approximate. I didn't dive into it because ended up flipping it, but approximately around, I think, 6,000 a month on the high season. I don't know about the low season. When I changed strategies, I forgot about those numbers. But the traditional rent, if I wanted to rent it out, was I could have had this rented probably for 29, I think 3,000 that was conservative, so it would have been 3,000. It would have covered my expenses as a rental, because my expenses would have been around 2,700. It would have been tight as a renter, or as a rental, but there's so much equity in the property, it kind of balanced out, but a little bit. But I ended up flipping it because, for a variety of reasons, I won't go into all of them, but ultimately I'm just looking to do, I have a focus on something else right now, and I wanted to stay on that focus. Basically, I'm building my rental portfolio, and it's a different strategy. I'm doing lease options. It just made sense, having all that equity just made sense. And honestly, it's an older property, and when I didn't want to deal with it. I didn't want to deal with any potential headaches, is what it comes down to. I don't like, it's in perfect, not perfect condition, it's phenomenal condition. We really did a lot of work on it, but I really don't want to deal with the headaches of an older property, is what it really came down to.
Well, because your main strategy is buy and hold, and so even though you bring up a really good point that some people may not even have seen when you were sharing this, because you start off, your goal is buy and holds. You want the time freedom to do what you want to do when you want to do it, and that's really, really awesome. So as you start and you saw this, majority of the folks who only know one strategy will probably have walked away from this. But because you know multiple strategies and you learn and you had a community of folks to support you in that, where you can, like, call on and ask for, some good advice, because we all part of a really awesome community, you was able to pivot. And then at the same time, you said, you know what, I could take on that property because I have multiple strategies. So you didn't shy away from it. You actually leaned forward into it. And as you kind of say, you know what, let me go back to my roots. Let me do Airbnb. Then, let me go ahead and do rentals. You say, you know what, as you was going through the property, you says, you know what, I see where my numbers are, and I have other properties that I'm working on. You control the properties. The properties didn't control you. And that is so huge, as you was kind of laying it out. And I'm just like, oh my gosh, just the process that you was going to. A lot of people may have missed that, but you control the property control you. Because I meet some people that says, oh yeah, this property is blah, blah, and they so down and out because they didn't control the property, as you are showing us today. So that's really, really awesome. So some people are saying, where was the property? The property is in New Jersey. Some people are asking, like, did you have to come up with all the money, or how did the funding come? I mean, you don't have to be exact, but like, where did the money come from?
Oh, that's a great question. So this property actually is no money out of my pocket. I got a hard money loan and a private money loan, a combination of the two. Um, yeah. And yeah, so no money out of my pocket. And yeah, for this.
You're like, yeah, this is no money down deal. I didn't use any of my own money. I use OPM, but you knew how to do that, and so this is really awesome. So wow, there's so many nuggets that's in this as you kind of sharing it. People are saying, hey, your creativity is awesome. well done. This property, how's you converted, you changed it. What else do you want to share about this property?
Yeah, I mean, I would just say a lot like what we are taught all came into fruition while I was doing property between the contractors, so like getting support from the community, the education. I was on my driving to this house, I was listening, I think it was Brian Sum, and the funny thing is he in his class he talks about the exact issue I was having in the backyard with the like literally I was like, is he talking to me? Because it was literally exactly the challenge I was having with the water. And I was like, oh my gosh. So, uh, I mean, after having the experiences I've had with this, and I don't think like for me, it was a little bit of a bigger project. I don't think if for someone more experienced, it was that, you know, in flipping would have had, you know, it wasn't, there wasn't that the issues weren't uncommon, right? I was just a lot for me because it was one of my first big rehabs. But I learned and grew so much from
We
it.
gotta disconnect it from
Yep,
I
somebody
would
cut off.
settings.
I would just say don't get scared of stuff, right? Like he said, lean into it as long as the numbers work, as long as you have the right support system and as long as you have the right knowledge, you know, like this is like if I would have walked away from this, I would have walked away from a six-figure profit.
Yeah. And then so the process you said about 6 months from beginning to the end?
Yeah.
Awesome, awesome. And so, yeah, you're right. So for 6 months, creating six figures, selling the property, that's not bad.
And I'm sorry, I did have the Airbnb numbers on here, and they're right in front of on the screen. So had I kept it as an Airbnb, the numbers would have been great too. Um, but it was just the right for me. It was just the right thing to flip it. I think the least profitable would have been to keep it as a traditional rental, but that was never in the plans.
Yeah, because you was what we call you was expanding, you're stretching, right? So you build your confidence over time. And as I was listening to your story and having engagement and communication, you learn, you go into the properties, you're learning, you absorbing, and you had your different exit strategies, which is really, really key. And so some folks are probably saying, okay, that's how do I learn that type of, how do I connect, you mentioned hard money, private money, like how do that? And so if you're really curious, the person who invited you to this meeting, just reach out to them and says, hey, I want to get I want some more information about really being all in when it comes to real estate investing. Because you know what? We about to go into April, and some people said at the beginning of the year, I want to make a different in 2024. I want to really understand real estate investing. I'm tired of sitting on the fence. Or maybe, a person, you keep saying, that one day I'm going to do this. One day I'm going to do this. But as you realize, one day keeps adding up, and then it never happens until you make it day one. So the question I want to ask you is, when did that day one start for you? Like, when did it really sink in? Like you said, you know what? I'm going to do this and I'm moving forward. When was that? Like, what was that feeling when that became day one for you?
Um, when they basically told me at my last corporate job that they weren't giving raises. Like I just, I just I saw them make so much money and here I am living in New York City barely be able to pay my bills because of how little I was getting paid. And I was like, this makes no sense. Why am I passing on all this money? Um
Because
that
it was inside of you, right? Because you helped, right? Because the creativity was in you, everything that the ideas, the expression, the feelings are inside of you, and you just wanted to share. And they was like, yeah, sure, take it. But at the same time, we won't pay you any more for that. So now you pivot towards this. And because I'm just looking at the story that you had, you pivot and then you benefited from that. And so, matter of fact, because some people want to see you, like, because they really are gravitating towards you. Unless you have some more slides you want to share.
I have more I can share, but no, I don't have any in this.
Oh, okay.
More pictures if you like.
So we're getting close towards the end because I know some people want to reach out to the person who invited them because it is a different Zoom link. It may, because there's one right after this one. So reach out to somebody. It's at the top of the hour. It's a different Zoom link. And if you can't, just again, reach out to the person who invited you and just tell them what you got from this on this meeting. So as we get ready to close, um, what are some of the other nuggets that you probably was thinking of as you were sharing that you want to help somebody to like really get off the fence or really step into this thing called real estate investment, even though it may feel scary? What would you want to share with them?
Yeah, that's a loaded answer, but the biggest thing is, listen, I was scared when I started. I was freaking out during and like for a little bit, but you figure it out. Like when you surround yourself with the right people and the education, like all the things that I mentioned, the education, the community, came into play big time, and don't let that hold you back. Like a lot of people get held back or because of funding. Like if there's a will, there's a way, right? If people just get started, stop like people let all these excuses build up in their heads as to why they can't get started. And in the meantime, none of them at the end of the day, they're all figure outable, right? You can figure out all these things. You can always let things hold you back, is what I'm alluding to. But you're gonna miss out, right? If you do that. Like I could have missed out on a six-figure profit if I would have let all the things scare me. Like listen, actually, I'll give you a quick story. I was initially afraid of dealing with contractors and the construction side because it was so foreign to me, right? And I let that hold me back for a solid 2 years. I made all these excuses up in my head as to why I was going to have such a big challenge with contractors and why it wasn't going to work for me and all this stuff. And it turns out, like, I love my contractors. I have they just great people, and it's been one of the best experiences. And here I let it hold me back for more than 2 years, actually, because I was so freaked out because of all these things that I heard from other people. It wasn't any factual, it was just stupid stories that I let get to me. And it turns out they've been one of the biggest blessings. You know what I mean? Like they've been some great people. Now, did I have some challenges? Yes. Like I've had to go through, I had to vet out. I had to go through the rain to get to the rainbow, I like to say. But once I got to the right people, they're fantastic. And I had no idea. I love being a part of the construction side. It's just fun because that's where I can apply my creativity, and that's where I can apply my fashion entertainment, or my fashion world comes into play. Like it's really fun for me to do that. So whatever it is that might be holding you back, don't let it hold you back. You typically it's just a stupid excuse that you build up in your head and you let it overcome you. Don't let it hold you back. Talk to the All right, I'm getting all these direct messages. I'm going to undirect them, Charles, just because you're asking some good questions. Um, but don't let them hold you back from getting into real estate, because it's so easy to let all these excuses that you build up in your head hold you back. And you could be like, I'm creating generational wealth. I'm helping my family. I'm, creating a lifestyle that I love because of real estate investing. So if I would have let all these excuses hold me back, I would never be here. I would never have the ability to go travel the world and, do the things I want to do if it wasn't for having that flexibility.
Yeah, that is awesome. I mean, hats off to you. People are saying, "Hey, thank you for taking action." Because everybody has something they have to overcome, and when you overcame, I actually now I think you're going to do more fix and flip. I think that's going to be kind of like as you can. I know you kind of like, ooh, I kind of like this, right? Because it opens up who's really inside of you. And again, I want to just thank you for taking your time out. We're gonna because you got you're busy, you like to travel. Just thank you for taking your Saturday out, right, to be able to share with us. And people are saying congrats, on not just the property, but your process that you overcame, and now you're enjoying it on the other end, where some people just don't even want to start. So thank you for sharing that. Again, thank you, Scott Buckles and Yaz, for allowing us to come together and share, because these property tours, we do on Saturday really helps me, because when we talk to other investors and we hear their stories, and it's like, you know what, if she can do it, I can do it. And so thank you for, just being vulnerable and just sharing, the ups and downs, right? Hey, I had a contractor, had to get rid of them. Hey, there was some money there that I wasn't expecting, but you had the different strategies. You learned the tools, you understand the process, and you went forward. So again, thank you for being here. And if there's anything else you want to say, I just want to, give you that last second there.
Yeah, no, I'm if anyone has any questions, the best way to find contractors, I don't know the best way. I just know what I've been doing. Is I mean, honestly, I got referrals from and from one from my portfolio in the South, and this guy I actually just posted on Facebook on some Facebook groups. Hey, I'm looking for contractors, and I asked them questions. So when we're taught how to vet out, ask specific questions, and that's how I got the second guy. The first guy I was just a little bit in a rush because I needed a contractor to, and I probably should have slowed myself down a little bit. But the second time I properly vetted him, I just threw it up on Facebook and I asked some questions, and he answered the questions what I wanted to hear, and it was a great fit. So just knowing how to ask the right questions is important, and making sure they're licensed. There's a certain checklist that you want to go through when you're talking to contractors. And maybe ask for references, but that's just how I did it.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you for your time. Thank you for pouring back into folks, right? Because we just don't take in, we also give back. And so you're giving back to everybody that's here, that's showing that it can be done. Go through the process, learn, grow. Everybody have an awesome Saturday, and we see y'all later. See you next Saturday. We have another property tour coming up.